Ever feel like your compassion is being used as a weapon against you? You've always been an empathetic person, but lately, it's starting to feel more like a curse than a gift. You find yourself constantly drained, confused, or feeling like you're being taken advantage of by friends, family, or even coworkers. If that's hitting a little too close to home, I need you to hear this loud and clear. It is not your fault. Your ability to feel things so deeply is a superpower, but any power can be exploited by people who don't have your best interests at heart. Empathy is what allows us to connect and be kind. But there's a dark side, not to empathy itself, but to how other people can twist it for their own gain. They learn that your compassion isn't a gift to be cherished, but a button to be pushed for control, and it leaves you feeling exhausted and second-guessing your own reality. So let's break down the 5 key signs that your empathy is being used against you. Spotting these patterns is the first, most critical step to protecting your energy, taking back your power, and making sure your compassion stays the beautiful gift it's meant to be, not a tool for someone else's manipulation. First up, the frequent and strategic use of guilt trips. Guilt tripping is just emotional manipulation, plain and simple, where someone makes you feel guilty on purpose to get you to do what they want. It's an insanely effective tactic against empaths because it preys on your core nature. You hate the thought of causing anyone pain or distress. So, what does this actually look like? Well, a manipulator has a PhD in making you feel responsible for their emotions. They use phrases that sound innocent enough, but they're loaded. Have you ever heard something like, "I guess I'll just have to do it myself," again, followed by a huge dramatic sigh? That's not a statement. It's emotional leverage designed to make you fold. Other greatest hits of guilt tripping include, "I never thought you'd be the one to let me down," or the classic, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me." These lines are engineered to trigger your sense of duty, creating an emotional debt they can cash in whenever they want. A parent might say, "I'm just so unhappy when you're not here," making you feel guilty for having your own life. A friend might hit you with, "I thought we were closer than that," the second you try to set a boundary. You end up doing things you don't really want to do, all to avoid that heavy, sinking feeling of guilt. If you constantly feel like you're walking on eggshells, terrified of disappointing someone, it's a massive red flag that your empathy is being used to control you. This second sign is a phrase that can slowly make you feel like you're losing your mind, being told you're too sensitive, too emotional, or that you're overreacting. This is a classic gaslighting technique, and it's all about making you question your own reality. When you call them out on their behavior and express a totally valid emotion, like hurt or frustration, they don't address what they did. Instead, they flip the script and make your reaction the problem. For an empath, this is especially damaging. You feel things deeply. It's just how you're wired. So when someone you trust tells you your feelings are wrong or over the top, you start to believe it. You start wondering, wait, am I crazy? Am I the problem? Maybe I really am too sensitive. This self-doubt is exactly what the manipulator wants. It's a perfect distraction from their own toxic behavior. Think about it. You bring up something that hurt your feelings. Instead of getting an apology, you get, "Wow, you really can't take a joke, can you?" Or, "You're blowing this way out of proportion." Suddenly, the conversation isn't about them anymore. It's about your supposed inability to handle your emotions. Over time, you might just stop speaking up to avoid being labeled. Honestly, this is just projection. Toxic people can't handle their own difficult emotions, so they accuse you of being the emotional one. They're using your emotional intelligence against you, turning your ability to feel into a supposed character flaw. This constant invalidation is a clear sign that your feelings aren't being respected. They're being used to control the narrative. Sign number 3. You realize you're in a totally one-sided relationship where you've become an emotional dumping ground. Empaths are natural healers. You genuinely want to be there for people, and while that's a beautiful quality, a manipulator sees it as an all-you-can-eat buffet of emotional support. In a healthy relationship, support is a two-way street. When your empathy is being exploited, you're the permanent giver, and they're the permanent taker. They call you at all hours to vent, dissect every tiny problem they have, and lean on you for constant support. But the moment you need someone to talk to, Suddenly they're too busy, or they somehow pivot the conversation right back to themselves. You start to notice that after every single time you talk to them, you feel completely drained and empty. That's because you've just absorbed all their negative energy, and you got nothing back to recharge your own. They don't just share their problems, they dump them on you and walk away feeling lighter, leaving you to carry all that emotional weight. This isn't just about romance. It can be a family member who only calls to complain, a friend who treats you like their 24/7 therapist, or a coworker who sucks you into a vortex of negativity. You feel like you have to help because your empathy literally makes you feel their pain. But if your needs are always on the back burner, it's not a relationship, it's exploitation. If you feel more like a therapist than a friend, your empathy is being taken for a ride. If this is all sounding painfully familiar, just take a deep breath. Realizing what's happening is a huge first step. If you're getting something out of this, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. We're building a community here all about emotional intelligence and protecting your peace, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. The fourth sign is when you're trapped in the dizzying hero to zero cycle. This is also known as love bombing and devaluation, and it's a nasty manipulation tactic often used by people with narcissistic traits. It all starts with love bombing. They put you on a pedestal and shower you with intense affection and praise. You'll hear things like, "You're the only person who's ever truly understood me," or "You're the most compassionate person I've ever met." As an empath craving deep connection, this feels like a dream. You feel seen and valued. This phase is designed to get you completely hooked, and then, almost overnight, the switch flips. Devaluation begins. The same person who adored you starts to criticize, belittle, and undermine you. Compliments turn into insults. Your greatest strengths are twisted into weaknesses. Your compassion is now naivete. You go from being their hero to feeling completely worthless in their eyes. This usually happens right after you set a boundary or do something they don't like. This hot and cold routine keeps you in a constant state of confusion. You're left scrambling, wondering what on earth you did wrong to fall from grace. You start desperately trying to get back to that love-bombing phase, doing anything you can to please them. And that's the goal, to keep you off balance and desperate for their approval. They use your desire to fix things to control you completely. If your relationship is a roller coaster of extreme highs and crushing lows, you're not in a healthy dynamic. You're being manipulated. The fifth, and maybe the most important sign, is a complete and total disregard for your boundaries. Healthy relationships are built on respect, and that means respecting each other's limits. Empaths can struggle with setting boundaries because they don't want to be selfish or hurt anyone's feelings. Manipulators know this, and they will relentlessly test, push, and bulldoze your boundaries just to see what they can get away with. It might start small. They call you late at night, knowing you have work early, and then act wounded if you don't pick up. They show up at your house unannounced, ignoring your need for personal space. They borrow money and forget to pay you back, counting on you to avoid the awkward conversation. It gets worse when they make their problems your responsibility. They'll say, "I can't make this decision without you," forcing you to take ownership of their life choices. They disrespect your time, your energy, and your space, because in their mind, your job is to serve their needs. And when you finally do try to say no or set a limit, they hit you with anger, the silent treatment, or more guilt-tripping, saying things like, "I can't believe you're being so selfish." This constant boundary pushing is meant to wear you down. It teaches you that your needs don't matter. Over time, you might just stop trying because the backlash is too exhausting. If you feel like your no is never the final answer, it's a sure sign that your empathy is being exploited by someone who doesn't respect you as a person. So, to recap the 5 signs: constant guilt trips, being told you're too sensitive, becoming an emotional dumping ground, the hero to zero cycle, and the relentless breaking of your boundaries. If you saw yourself or your relationships in this, please know you are not alone, and this is not your fault. Your empathy is not a weakness. It is a powerful strength the world desperately needs. The problem isn't your compassion. It's the people who choose to exploit it. The most powerful thing you can do now is build your awareness. Recognizing these tactics is the first step to taking back your power. You can learn to set firm boundaries. You can learn to say no without feeling guilty. And you can learn to give your incredible gift of compassion to people who deserve it, starting with yourself. Thanks for watching. If this video resonated, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our future videos. And please, share your experiences in the comments. Reading each other's stories is so validating. Remember, your well-being matters. Protect your gift.